So Alasdair, you're kicking us off. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah. Let me check. I can share my screen. I can share my screen. That is good. Okay, let's see if this is going to work. So this is a really nice 9 minutes now. It's wasted a minute, but 10-minute talk about a club that doesn't get much attention, even though I talk about this and the team who run it talk about it a lot. It rarely gets mentioned. So it's really nice to come on here on a rainy afternoon and say, this is what we're doing in Principe for conservation and technology, and this is why we created it, and here's where we are. And there's a really nice win because we were very lucky to get the Earth Ranger Conservation Technology Prize or Award for 2021, which is really going to make a difference to what we do here. But I'll tell you all about the club. And what you can see on your screen here, now I've got it actually working, is one of the classes. And this club was essentially set up because there's a problem in conservation technology today in that you may have heard the term parachute science, where we develop these really interesting tools, we develop them behind closed doors, we then celebrate that they're open, accessible, the world can use them, and then we fly into a country where we're going to use them, or a destination where we're going to collect that data and use it to affect change, but then we fly back out. We don't leave those tools there, and often the local population are left staring at what we're doing. You'll see children down on the beach looking at when we tagged sea turtles, wanting to get involved, but there was no door, there was no way to let them get involved. So we said we should start a conservation club for children, and we should give them the same tools as we use, so the same hardware. We should get volunteer teachers in, we should fund it through the sale of the equipment that we sell, and let's just do it. So in 2016, it's going back quite a while, we found a building. And this is the building that we first found. It wasn't ours. We had to actually get it rented to us by a local telecoms company. So this was actually a building that was owned by CST, who are the equivalent of Vodafone or O2 in the UK. And we said to them, could we rent your building? Could we turn it into a tech club? And this is right in the heart of Principe. So an actual building that we could use to develop these lessons. And I'm taking credit for this. This is all done by Francisco, who is the head of the club, and his team. I get to come onto Zoom and be like, look at this great thing that's been created, but it was Francisco and his team that did it. But we turned this building into this building. And the whole place got renovated. It got cleaned up. It was all funded by the Shuttleworth Foundation. That's who made this possible. And if you take a few looks at this, here's another view. They did a fantastic job a year later in turning this into the club. And again, this is right in the heart of the city centre in Principe. And I say city, population is a few thousand people, but this is still right in the heart of Principe. This is a look inside. So there was an old door here. There's a hole in the roof up there. The windows are just boarded up, and they turned the whole thing into a really nice, usable space. And this is what formed Club Arribada. And it, as I said, it's designed for 9 to 12-year-olds. So we kitted it up with secondhand laptops that we got from Computer Aid. Here's one of them here. These are like ThinkPads and business laptops that have been essentially shelved by companies when they've upgraded, like really big companies that want to do something good with them. And we buy them at £90, £100, really affordable rates, and we ship them to Principe, and we kit the equipment in to produce a syllabus and get these kids trained. This is what it looks like inside. So this is after school, it's free. There's a really great percentage of participants. It's, I think, 54% female, which is really good to see. So these are young girls in Principe who can now come to this club after school and get hands-on with some really interesting equipment. I'll go through some of the lessons in a minute to give you a sense of what we do. We pair the kids together. So it'll be 2 to a computer, and they'll go through Scratch and these programming tools that are designed to get kids into programming, to do the basics. We have a kind of sheet that they use. It's like a kind of stamp sheet, and you can see on here, hopefully you can see if your screen's big enough, that the kind of lessons they go through are an introduction to computing, which is basic keyboard skills, basic email, all the things that are going to that they've never been exposed to, so they just know how to use a computer and get around it. Then they get into Scratch, which is, again, the programming software. They do X and Y coordinates. So what is X, Y, Z? How does that work? How do you move around in that space? They do a GPS class. They do Animal Detective, which is really cool. I'll tell you about in a minute. And as they go, they get these stamps and they go through modules. And to form this, we needed something that was a syllabus that we could really show in year 1, you learn this, in year 2, you learn this. And Francisco created a syllabus. This is a fiber optics class that they do, which is really cool. I want to do these classes myself. I see these photos and I'm like, I want to sit in the class, let alone, it be something I can't participate in. But the syllabus looks like this. And this again is something to celebrate, because there's some really good, solid lesson planning that's gone into this. And it's all delivered by a volunteer teacher. Rita is our volunteer teacher. She's been living on the island with a stipend from Arribada to cover some core costs, so accommodation, food, etc. But she's been super dedicated. She's there delivering all these lessons with Francisco supporting. And these modules, again, stem on computer science, programming, as I said, introduction to coordinates. We bring in the red list. There's actually an IUCN red list printed on the wall in the club. And the kids go through species status. They look at why is a species extinct in the wild, what does endangered mean, and as they progress, year 1 is that kind of introduction. They go through to year 2, which is a little bit more in depth, and as you get through to year 3, then they get into things like 3D scanning. So actually at the back of this class is a 3D scanner that they use to scan artifacts that they find locally, so shells on the beach, plants, anything that they find that is 3D scannable, they actually scan in, they then 3D print it, and they share it with other clubs and other technology classes. So there's a school in Lisbon that will do the same. The kids in this class will share items that they found locally that they've scanned, and they switch them over Skype, and they can share items that they found in Lisbon locally too. So it's a really great way of using tech in a very interesting way to share what's the ecology around you like. But importantly, it's not just about computers. It really comes down to even basic lessons like binary, so noughts and ones, and they don't use computers at that stage. They just use basic tools like bottle tops or candles or bits of wires to form the ones and the zeros. So it's scalable from, you can run these clubs where there's no electricity, where you may have, very basic equipment, all the way up to you've got power and internet and you want to do some more advanced stuff. But it's not designed for areas where you have to have facilities. It was always designed to be bubble up from below. And of course, when we're working with the turtles, and as scientists, we're working with some of our tags. You can see one of the tag turtles there. We wanted to take this tag into the classroom, but also bring the data with it. So the children are exposed to why science is going on, why the turtles are being tagged. They learn about the species. This is much more about ecology at this stage in the lessons. But then, oh, did I lose you then? One sec, the slide slipped. They learn about the ecology in the class, but they want to be connected to the space. They want to come down to the beach and work with us and get connected to it. So what we do is we invite the actual trained guards. So the trained guards are here in blue, and they come into the classroom. They explain what they do for their job. So these are the guards that go down to the beaches at night. They collect the eggs. They do all the census work. They deploy the tags. And in the corner here, printed on the sheet, is the actual output of the tagged turtles. This is the GPS coordinates that they found, that we got back from the tags. The kids go through it. They sit there and analyze it and say, oh, look at the spatial use of the sea by these turtles. Why are they there? They question if there are any threats to them. They question where the fishing effort may be. So it's super hands-on. You can see this is the kind of setup that happens. The GPS class, they actually tag a stray dog. So this dog was a stray dog that basically became the club mascot. They tag it with an I got you GPS tag. And the dog runs off, does whatever it's doing in town. When it comes back to the club, they pop off the tag. They do the same. The kids download the data and they look at the track of this dog, and they get a sense of GPS tracking animals. And this was literally a stray dog that came in one day, and it's now the club mascot. And the door's always open, so it can just come in whenever it wants and just become a part of the team. And importantly, it's all hands-on locally. So again, we take the kids down to the beaches. They get to see what's happening in real life, but we connect internationally, because when they're back in the classroom, we have those Skype sessions, we have those international connections. And for me, that's really important, because we want the kids to grow up connected, so they realize it's not just them on the island. They can be the future conservationists by doing things like we're doing now, using Zoom to talk about the work we're doing, and training Principe-based conservationists of tomorrow, so they know they can grow up and have the skills necessary to apply for the jobs that we're looking for. So if you want someone who knows about GIS, these kids are getting taught GIS so they can come into 16, 17 years old with that ability to take on those jobs and say, I do have some experience, actually, I have done this. And that's fantastic, I think, because we're trying to solve the problem of right now. Before this club started, it just wasn't accessible in Principe. The local school gives them education to the level of maths, Portuguese, etc., but it's not conservation tech. So with the Earth Ranger Award, tell me if I'm going over time, Steph. Have I got enough time?
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
Fab. With the Earth Ranger Award, this is fantastic, because we won $15,000 from Earth Ranger to scale the club, to do all the things we've always dreamed of doing, like the what's next questions. And now we're going to support the club in Principe. We're going to continue advancing the modules and the work that goes on there. So bring in some interesting equipment and do some really interesting things. But we're also going to start a second club in Cape Verde with FMB, another turtle charity. So in 2023, there'll be 2 teachers. There'll be Rita in Principe, and there'll be our new teacher in Cape Verde. So the kids on those 2 island communities will be sharing, again, the work that they do and the inputs that they get and the activities that they do will be shared between those 2 clubs and beyond internationally. So we're starting to, with the Earth Ranger Award, we're starting to scale it out now to see what can you do? How can we replicate this in other island communities? And it works really well in island communities because you've got these really captivated audiences that are thirsty to get into this space, but just don't have a Raspberry Pi sea turtle tag available. But if we can drop it off, because it is low cost, we can say, here you go, play around with it yourself, program it yourself. Your mums and dads, who are the turtle guards, will deploy it on the turtles and they will bring the data back and you can become a part of it. So this is what Club Arribada is. Very quick summary to wrap up. 2016, it was created as an idea. In 2017, it opened. So it's already been running for quite some time as we've brought this into a mature place. In 2018, we added the garden. 2018-19, we started bringing in IUCN work and those activities. In 2022, we got that Earth Ranger Award. And moving forwards now, our plan is to keep this going. All of the activities are open source, they're all online, they're all shareable, they're all free to download, so anyone can recreate this themselves. And it's just been nice to spend 10 minutes with you to celebrate Club Arribada. So that's my whirlwind tour of the work going on.
Al, you've given so many talks at our things, and I think that possibly might be my favorite one that you've ever talked. That was
good.
That was awesome. It's so exciting to see how much the club's grown, and like it's so impressive to see like the modules the kids go through and what you're taking them, the journey that they're going through, and that you're linking conservation and tech together right from the start. That's so exciting. So open source is your shindig, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything is like, what's your plan for all the modules? And like, I know at the end you said that people could pick it up and take it themselves, but if people on the call were interested in starting up a Club Arribada type thing, what's the process?
Yeah, so you should chat to Francisco. He's Arribada's club lead. He's the guy who started all of this. I found him on Principe. I was out there working on a project, and we were in a bar just having dinner, and he was sitting on another table drawing what looked like a sketch of like a robotics class. I could hear him kind of talking about robotics in Principe, and like, what's this guy on about robotics in Principe? And he was already over there with an idea of what would it look like just doing interesting education work. And then we got chatting, and I was like, you know what? We've got some funding from Shuttleworth here to actually try this. So it all started with them as well, in that they said, go experiment, go try this and see if it'll work. That was from 2017 to 2020, and we just kept it going from then. So the trick is, if you want to do this yourself, it's taking all of the modules and all of the activities, because they've been refined, they've been tweaked. We know what works, what doesn't work, which is really important for engagement. So if you want to start it yourself, you need to go through those years of figuring out, why do the kids come back? That we know that this is fully subscribed because the kids enjoy it and they work through it, and we know they're learning. But it takes some time to get to that point. But if you want to do this, really all you need to think about is, can you get that space? Can you get somewhere that they can use as the classroom? And then how are you just going to keep that stipend going? How are you just going to keep the teachers with enough support? And often that doesn't have to be a big monetary value. It just has to be like a percentage of what you're doing as an organization. Like we probably spend 5-10% of our annual income on running the club, but it's well worth it, because for me the future is one of these kids in the photo there I'm going to meet at a conference in the future, having not known they've been through the club, and they're going to go on and do a presentation and say, I went to Club Arribada, I learned this, and now I am head of conservation technology in this NGO. And at that point you drop the mic, you're like, that's what it's about. So the dream is to see that, because they started when they were 9 years old. So it's going to take a few more years. We're running for 6 years, but soon we'll see them get to that age where hopefully they've been inspired to be in that position.
Amazing. Vanessa, do you want to ask a question, and then we'll move on?
Sorry,
Vanessa,
no,
you did
accidentally.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll ask a question. So all of the materials are at arribada.club, right?
Yep.
Awesome. And just have a poke around the chat. You're getting lots of lovely comments from everyone here. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Al. That's super exciting.